Hi everybody, this is Noelle from Petitti Garden Centers, and we're doing what's in store for October. We are here at Oakwood Village. We tend to find ourselves here a lot, Taylor, don't we? But needless to say, October means it's time to plant for sure. And also a lot of plants are changing color. And so we wanted to show you this grass. This is Miscanthus purpurescens. And we actually showed you this grass last year, this ornamental grass last year, but it hadn't changed color yet. So again, just depending on what's happening with the weather and the temperature changes, sometimes you get exactly what you want here. This is otherwise known as flame grass too. So if you ever see that, flame grass is Miscanthus purpurescens. It is a, I'd say a medium-sized Miscanthus. It's gonna grow about 4 foot with the foliage, and then you'll get about 1.5 feet taller with the whisk-like florets. But this is flame grass, so that's what it's supposed to color up and look like for the fall. I wanted to show you one of my favorite sedum varieties, and I talk about it a lot, so you may have heard me mention this before, but it's called Sedum Seboldii. And Sedum Seboldii is actually, common name is October Daphne. And for those of you that have never seen this before, it is a smaller stone crop, round mound, really doesn't grow more than about 6 inches tall in the landscape. But, and I know I've shown it, this light blue leaf is so pretty all through the growing season, and it has these dark pink edges to it, and then it goes into full bud. It's not even really opened up and blooming yet, but it is in full bud right now in October, and it looks absolutely wonderful. It's the latest blooming of all those stone crops that we've shown you before, Autumn Fire and all those guys. But this one is just one of my favorites, and it stays low and compact, and the bees love it. So last little bit of nectar there before they really need to find a nest and find a home. Okay, and it's around Peachy's Pick, which is the Stokes Aster here. But Peachy's Pick, this is probably, I'd say for Stokes Aster, Peachy's Pick is probably one of your best repeat bloomers. So this is probably the second or third cutback and reflush on these. So make sure you continue to cut your Stokes Aster back so it continues to bloom for you. Another great plant out in the perennial area, and I should mention, when we get into October with perennials, I want you to get them in the ground as soon as possible if you can. We tend to plant a lot in October, but perennials, we need at least 4 to 6 weeks for them to get rooted into the soil before the ground freezes. So the sooner you can get your perennial plants planted, the better. With trees and shrubs and woody plant material, it's not quite the same. We can go and plant for a much longer period of time, but for perennials, definitely try to get them installed as soon as you can. Probably by the middle of October would be great timing for them. But this one here, it's not quite open just yet. It's just in full bud. This is Willow Leaf Sunflower. This is a perennial helianthus. They are a great pollinator plant, and we actually call them a keystone plant as well. Any of your sunflowers are going to be a keystone plant, supporting a lot of wildlife out there. And you can see it's a willow leaf one, and it's called Autumn Gold, but willow leaf because of the very narrow kind of almost ferny texture to it. So it's really cool in the landscape. And like I said, if you want sunflowers late in the season, try this one. It's always one of the latest bloomers, and it always looks awesome. Just a couple other grasses that I wanted to show you all. Miscanthus, so another Miscanthus. This is Morning Light. Morning Light is probably my second favorite, I think, out of the Miscanthus family. I talked about Gracillimus last year, and you always see Gracillimus out in the landscape. Beautiful, thin maiden grass. Morning Light is also very thin texture, just really beautiful, kind of blows around in the wind, has that just slight weeping habit at the top, or waterfall habit at the top. It is shorter than Gracillimus. It usually grows up to about 4 foot in the landscape, and then does have the whisk type flowers on top, but again later. But what's neat about Morning Light is it has just the slightest white variegation to it. So it has a very light green color, and I just love how fine it is. It's just a beautiful grass. Now behind me here is a native grass, okay? And this is big blue stem here. It's called Black Hawks. We have two varieties, October something, and Black Hawks. So Black Hawks actually, look at this dark burgundy foliage, almost like a dark purpley black. Really, really beautiful. And then the flowers come out and these seed heads develop, and they're called turkey feet. So when they open up, they kind of look like turkey feet. So it's turkey foot grass, if you will. I'd say foliage probably around the 3.5, 4 foot mark. And then the flowering is what makes this grass taller. So it can flower up to about 5 to 6 foot. Okay, so keep that in mind when you're planting these grasses, that the foliage is going to be a little bit shorter than what you think. The flowering is really going to pop up there at the top. But great native grass, very easy going, can grow in part shade all the way to full sun. For the most part, our grasses really would prefer that 6 or more hours of sunlight, but this one can take a little bit more shade than that. You might have a little bit of color fading if you put it in too much shade, but other than that, they'll do really well in our soils, and they're just awesome. Remember, we're planting in October, and this is a great combo to plant. So I wanted to show everybody. David has this lined up in his runway. We've got drift roses out front, that nice edging kind of rose. They stay low. They're a ground cover type, and I think drift roses are probably my favorite roses. They're just so easy to take care of. Disease resistant, repeat blooming. The light pink one that you see there, they have those beautiful little sweetheart flowers. That is called Sweet Drift. So that makes sense there. I was going to say that with the drifts, just let them grow. Just keep on letting them bloom all through the month of October. You don't really have to do anything for them over the winter. You really don't need to protect them. You can deadhead them here and there and remove some of those flowers if you want to use them in vases, but they are just so easy. And then the next tier here, this nice little yellow evergreen is actually Anna's Magic Ball. It is a miniature arborvitae. It is obviously beautiful and yellow and just so cute. And this one really only grows to about 15 inches tall. So if you're looking for a nice little petite rounded evergreen out there, this is the one for you. Right behind it, we have Petite Knockout. So again, that beautiful kind of dark red, sort of fire engine red flowering, more of a miniature type knockout rose, if you will. But again, very clean foliage, beautiful flowering. Again, just let them keep going, keep flowering all through the season, all through the winter. Don't worry about protecting the drift or the knockouts over winter. They really won't need any care whatsoever. It's next spring where you can trim them and clean them up and they'll do fine. And then I wanted to show you this beautiful endless summer variety. This is a Macrophylla hydrangea, okay, so big leaf or mophead hydrangea. This one's called Bloomstruck. But what I want you to see here is these beautiful red stems. These stems are usually have a good pigmentation to them, but since we're having the cool weather at night, it is just looking phenomenal. So beautiful red stems. It is obviously still producing a lot of blooms and buds for you. Don't cut plants too far back in the fall. And so we talk about very minimal pruning at this time of year. And so especially with hydrangea, really you can enjoy the blooms, and if you want to deadhead the plants, that's fine, but don't prune too much because that causes new growth to produce, and that new growth is just going to get damaged by the winter weather coming. So needless to say, most of the plant material, unless it has the 3 Ds, which is disease, damage, or dead wood on it, you can remove that anytime. But the rest of the plant material, I'd really just let, dry down, dry back, and just let go over the winter. And then during dormant season, you can prune some of your trees and shrubs. Watch out for Macrophylla hydrangeas. Really, right now you can deadhead. So I'm just gonna take off a stem down 2 nodes and just use that in a vase, in a cutting. And basically that's it. You really don't want to prune these guys any more than that. They might get touched by winter weather, so you're going to have to remove that winter damaged area in the springtime down to the uppermost buds and just let them be, okay? So, but do enjoy Bloomstruck. That's a cool one. We're by one of my favorite fall color shrubs, and this is Itea, or Sweet Spire. You might have heard it with that name. And Itea is actually a summer blooming plant, produces little white kind of spiky flowers all over the plant. But they are gorgeous as far as fall color is concerned. And they are also a native plant of Ohio. So they grow very, very well in our soils. They can take some part shade out there in the garden and the landscape all the way to full sun. And of course, usually when you can give them a little bit more light out there, they really develop those beautiful autumn colors, and you can tell the burgundies and the reds that are starting to flush out here. There's several different varieties. Fizzy Mizzy is probably the, I would say, most petite, compact variety, a little bit tighter habit, a little bit smaller leaf. We've got Henry's Garnet, which is going to be the largest of the varieties, usually about 5 foot tall or so, about 3 to 5 foot wide. We also have Little Henry. Little Henry is just coloring up really, really beautiful, probably around that 4 foot tall mark, and then 4 foot wide as well. And then Scentlandia is over here and has a little bit of a kind of a little wider habit, I think. So Scentlandia is going to be right around that Little Henry mark, 3 to 4 foot tall and wide. So look for Sweet Spire. I think you'll really enjoy them. They're nice and easy, low maintenance out in the landscape, great bloomers, and beautiful fall color. Out in the nursery, I wanted to show you, again, we're talking about great fall color, and there's no time like October to plant blueberries. I know it kind of sounds a little bit strange, but blueberries are a native plant of Ohio. They grow so well for us. You do need full sun conditions, of course, to make sure that they're bearing fruit for you, but try a blueberry. Check out this fall color. It is absolutely gorgeous. So they can be beautiful ornamental plants, but still productive and produce some great fruit for you. So try blueberries. We always recommend planting more than one bush in an area so you can get production all through the blueberry fruiting season, early, mid, and late. So keep that in mind. This one's Blu-ray. It's a great producer. Oh my gosh, big blueberries that are super sweet. So, but there's many different varieties to choose from. And of course, if you like to feed the birds, having berry bushes out there in the landscape are also really helpful. Anything from your viburnum to your blueberries, raspberries, and we'll show you a couple other things that you can grow as well. This beauty that I'm standing next to is Tiger Eye Sumac, okay? It obviously is a gorgeous ornamental sumac out there. It is a little bit on the shorter side. Sometimes you go out into the park system and you see the big staghorn sumacs. This is actually just a shorter ornamental. So it gets about 3 to 4 foot tall in the landscape. Beautiful colors. Typically during the growing season, it's a chartreuse yellow. You do see kind of pinky stems on this plant. And obviously check out what the cooler nights have really been doing with this foliage. It really turns beautiful, beautiful autumn colors. Just be aware that this one does need some protection from deer, and I know this from personal experience. So make sure when it's young and it's starting to fill out in the spring, you do put some netting or go ahead and spray it with a repellent, because for whatever reason, the deer around my home really enjoyed gnawing on it. I'm standing by a red maple. This one's called Sun Valley. And this is a beautiful variety for a shade tree out in the yard. Sun Valley actually has a sort of a moderate height to it and shape, I will say. Grows about 30 foot tall, about 20 foot wide. So it's not a huge maple out there in the landscape, but obviously absolutely gorgeous. And all the red maples do turn beautiful shades for the fall. I will have to say another cool thing about Sun Valley red maple is that it is a male variety, male selection, so it's seedless. So you actually don't get the helicopters on this one. So it might be something you want to try, especially if you'd like a fast growing shade tree out there in the yard. Sun Valley. More trees for the fall, and this is a great tree. This is a hop hornbeam or Carpinus, okay? And this is the columnar variety, so you can tell very straight, thick, narrow growth, close to about 40-foot tall, folks, okay? So it's going to be a big tree. It can go in narrow spaces, but I still don't want you to plant it close to the house, okay? Because it can still spread out to about 20 foot wide. So be careful where you're placing some of the larger trees. But this one, dark foliage, very dark green, almost like an olive green. And then it will turn more of those golden shades in the fall. And the dark, very, very dark bark and dark branching on this tree. So I always think it has a really good sort of bicolor look to it with that olive green and that dark kind of purpley brown branching. But awesome tree, really, really great. Hornbeams always grow well for us. And I think it's a great street tree if you don't have any lines above, because it grows so narrow and upright that it just make a really pretty sentinel or specimen out there in the landscape. So look for this one. When we were talking about feeding the birds earlier and thinking about plant materials that you can plant, the viburnums, the blueberries, and so on, how about a crabapple? So crabapple trees are just so beautiful. They're the most beautiful spring bloomers out there. They are native trees to Ohio. They help feed the birds. They help the pollinators. It's just a great investment, and now is a great time to plant them. I have this beautiful variety here. This is snowdrift, and snowdrift actually, when it starts to bud in the spring, it has a pink bud to it, and then it opens to white flowers. It's really gorgeous. It's probably a 15 to 20 foot crabapple, nice rounded canopy on it, but look at these persistent fruit. So you always have beautiful fall color from the fruiting, and then also your foliage is gonna change to more of like a yellow orange there, okay? So this is snowdrift, and then if Taylor walks with me a little bit, and she doesn't trip on the gravel, hopefully. I wanted to show you this one. So this is sweet sugar time. And sweet sugar time, you can see those nice red crab apples, again, persistent, so they will stay on the tree as long as possible. And hopefully, again, those birds will come through and eat. But this is gonna be a little bit shorter than snowdrift. So you're gonna have kind of a darker red bud, pinky red, I should say, opens to white, beautiful white flowers. Again, great for the pollinators. And then habit on this one is going to be right around that 15-foot mark. So 15 by 15, nice rounded canopy on this one. But two great plants for the birds, for fall color, for fruiting, and also for spring flowering. And of course, October, great time to plant your pansies and violas. This is the best time of year to do that. We have this beautiful black color, love it. Kind of combined with the yellow with the face, love it. Anyway, right now is the best time to plant pansies and violas because you can enjoy them for the fall. They love the cool temperatures in the evening, love to get the sun during the day. And then, of course, when the snow melts, you can see them outside during the wintertime, and then they come back for the spring. So it really is a great time to plant these cool weather, just beautiful pansies and violas. And like I said, they're awesome at this time of year. And don't forget about adding all of your fall color. Pop out those tired annuals. Go ahead and pop in the mums and the cabbage and the kale and you know, the beautiful ornamental peppers, celosia, but I wanted to show you something else. So these are some asters that we're starting to grow along with the fall mums. These are hardy asters, so do look for them out there. And asters, again, great pollinator plant, awesome, awesome, awesome for wildlife. So we've got this beautiful dark pink. This one's called Marie here. And then check this out. This is kind of fun. Look at that. So this is Tiara pink and purple. This one just happened to be planted in the same pot. So it's like 2 for 1 here, but they are great, great, great perennials. get them out there, get them planted, and enjoy the color. We're inside houseplants, and I wanted to show you some cool new varieties. Snake plants for snake plant lovers out there. I'm one of them. I absolutely love them because they're just so abuse tolerant. But this is La Rubia. So I wanted to show you kind of a shorter snake plant, if you will. Foliage is really, really thick on this one. And look at that deep yellow coloring and then very, very dark interior on the leaves, that central area on the leaf. It's just so beautiful. And again, just like any of your snake plants, they're just so easy to take care of. Low to bright indirect lighting is fine for them. Dry soil, so you can let these soils almost dry out to the point where the soil shrinks on the sides, and then go ahead and thoroughly rewater and put back and enjoy them where you had them. They are air purifying as well, so love the snake plants. This is Fern Mikado. This is a really pretty one as well. Very, very thin leaves on it, dark coloring, very mottled, but very pretty, and kind of, I don't know, the snake plant, kind of appropriate for, you know, October and Halloween and everything else. And then this is a new ZZ. So this is actually ZZ Chameleon. And look at the veining on the foliage here, dark green veins, but then you have that light sort of creamy yellow color at the tips. It is a really cool plant. And again, ZZs, if you think you have a brown thumb, this really is a great plant for you. Again, lower light conditions, although I think with the variegated foliage, you'll probably want to bring it into a medium indirect light, maybe a bright indirect light to develop more of the color. But again, dry soils, let these soils dry out before you thoroughly rewater. And it's because ZZ, again, has that bulbous base of the stem. So they hold a lot of water in their stems. Just a reminder, if you want to bring some of your fall colors into your home, the Croton family is always fantastic to bring the yellows, the golds, the oranges, and the reds into your home. Remember that house plants, if you've had them outside, doesn't matter if they're foliage tropical plants or flowering tropical plants, do look at about mid-October to start bringing them indoors. You do want them to get a little bit of cold treatment because that makes their system just kind of slow down a little bit, and then go ahead and spray off with a cold stream of water and treat with a systemic houseplant if you'd like to the soil, and also spray down with maybe some neem oil or some insecticidal soap on the leaves so you don't carry any of the critters inside. But Crotons, awesome. There's so many different varieties. This is actually Petra. She's really, really cool and bright indirect light, so you can keep her very close to windows in the home to keep those bright, vivid colors. If you'll notice, if you move her in less light, she will start to fade and kind of turn more of a green color. But there are so many different types of Crotons out there, including this is Mammy. So it kind of looks like a curly Q leaf. And then also Gold Dust. And I'm going to show you that one really quick. Gold Dust has that beautiful speckled golden foliage, so we love them. Good complement with the Crotons, of course, are going to be the Kalanchos or Kalanchoes, however you'd like to say them. The double flowering types are Calendivas. The single flowering types are the Kalanchoes. This beautiful bicolor is called Robbie, with that beautiful orangey coral and also sort of a peachy yellow. So I think that one's an awesome one for fall. Okay, everybody, enjoy.